At Christmas, my brother got the keys to a $1.2 million mansion. I got a $5 gift card. The room erupted in laughter, like it was some kind of joke. Only it wasn't. I walked out in silence, snow crunching beneath my boots, my chest burning with humiliation. My name is Lillian Hart, 27 years old. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. Because what happens when the family that raised you treats you like an afterthought, then realizes that afterthought is holding the real power? I still remember that voicemail an hour later. Dad's voice was sharp, commanding, arrogant. "Return the house or we'll call the cops." The words replayed in my head over and over while I sat in my car outside their glittering home. Everyone inside was warm, drunk, celebrating his success. No one noticed me slip away. But the deed in my bag said something very different. The mansion they had just gifted my brother, the one they thought was his, legally had my name on it. Mine. They thought I'd stay quiet. They thought I'd stay small. Instead, I smiled in the dark, a smile so sharp it hurt my cheeks. If they wanted war, they were about to learn the difference between a spoiled son and a daughter who'd had enough. Because the mansion wasn't just a house. It was the beginning of a reckoning. And by the time Christmas lights came down, the golden child's crown would be nothing but ash. The next morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. Missed calls. Texts dripping with threats, then fake sweetness. "Lillian, let's talk this out. Return the deed before this gets ugly. You don't deserve that property anyway." I sat at my tiny kitchen table, the $5 gift card lying there like an insult carved in plastic. My brother's smug face flashed in my mind, the way he dangled those mansion keys like a trophy. The way Mom said, he earned it. Earned it? He hadn't worked a day in his life. Every car, every vacation, every success, paid for by my parents' money, by their endless devotion to their golden boy. Me? I was the one working double shifts, scraping by, paying off student loans while they laughed about my little life. But this deed? This was no accident. 5 years earlier, I'd loaned Dad money when his business teetered on collapse. He never thanked me, never repaid me. I let it go until a lawyer friend whispered advice: secure collateral. So I did, in silence. I made him sign, and he forgot. Until now. And suddenly, the tables had turned. By afternoon, Dad and Mom showed up at my apartment uninvited. Dad's fists pounded the door. "We can handle this quietly, Lil. Don't make a scene." I opened the door just enough to see their faces. Red, frantic, desperate. For once, they were the ones begging. I leaned against the frame, calm, steady. "I'm not giving it back. Not now, not ever." Mom gasped like I'd slapped her. Dad's jaw twitched. My brother hovered in the background, too cowardly to speak. For the first time in years, I wasn't the embarrassed one. They were. And it was only the beginning. By the third day, their tone had changed. The voicemails weren't threats anymore. They were pleas. "Sweetheart, your brother has a family. He needs stability. Think about how selfish this looks. You don't even know how to handle a place like that. Be reasonable. Sign it over. We'll make sure you're taken care of." Taken care of. Like a stray dog they'd toss scraps at. I drove to the mansion that afternoon. The air smelled of pine and cinnamon, the kind of staged luxury scent that made real life feel fake. A silver bow still hung across the garage. The driveway shimmered with imported stone. For a moment, standing there, I wanted to cry. Because this house wasn't just bricks. It was proof. Proof that after years of being laughed at, ignored and dismissed, I had finally flipped the script. Inside, I walked room by room, gleaming hardwood floors, a chandelier dripping like stars, a balcony with ocean views. My heart didn't ache. It hardened. I sat at the mahogany desk in the study, pulled out the title deed, and whispered aloud. "My name is on it. Not his. Mine." That night, I called my lawyer. File the notice. Block any transfer attempts. And check for hidden liens. He chuckled. "You've been waiting for this, haven't you?" "Yes," I said. "For years." The next morning, the family group chat exploded. Screenshots flew in from relatives, friends, even Dad's business partners. Somehow, word had spread. Everyone now knew. The mansion wasn't gifted to the Golden Son. It was legally mine. The silence that followed from my parents was deafening. And then, at exactly 7:02 p.m., a text came in from my brother. 5 words. "You'll pay for this." But he didn't realize he was already paying. My brother's threat wasn't empty. It came with action. By sunrise, I got an email from the HOA. Unauthorized occupant reported. Ownership in dispute. Investigation underway. I smirked. Classic. He'd gone whining to the board, trying to paint me as some intruder in my own home. But by then, my lawyer had already filed the deed with the county clerk. Public record. Irrefutable. Still, I knew my brother. He wasn't just going to stop. That night, I parked my car outside the mansion, headlights off, and waited. At 11:46 p.m., a moving truck pulled up. My brother hopped out, face red, veins bulging. Behind him, Mom and Dad, arms crossed, looking smug. They really thought they could storm the place. I stepped out slowly, phone in hand, recording. "Evening," I said. "Need directions? Because this isn't your house." Mom hissed, "Stop embarrassing us. Hand it over before this gets ugly." I tapped the document app on my phone, holding the glowing screen toward them. Title deed. Filed. Stamped. My name. Not his. Dad lunged forward, but froze when I added. "And this conversation?" Already uploading to the cloud. Their faces dropped. Rage mixed with panic. They weren't used to being cornered. My brother kicked the moving truck tire, cursing under his breath, then spat. "You don't deserve it. You've always been nothing." I smiled. Funny. Nothing usually doesn't own a $1.2 million mansion. For a moment, the silence was thick enough to choke on. Then Mom snapped, "Fine. Enjoy your precious house. But don't come crawling back when you're alone." They left in a storm of headlights and dust. But I knew it wasn't over. Because less than an hour later, an unknown number called. A deep voice said, "We need to talk. About your brother's debt." The voice on the phone was sharp, heavy with menace. "Your brother owes us $200,000. And guess whose address is now on record for collateral?" My stomach tightened, but I didn't flinch. "That's his problem, not mine." The man chuckled darkly. "See, that's where you're wrong. Family always pays." Click. The line went dead. For a moment, I stood frozen in the middle of the marble foyer, staring at the chandelier swaying faintly above me. They weren't bluffing. My brother's recklessness had finally come to collect, and somehow, he tied me into it. I checked the county records again. Sure enough, tucked inside the deed file was a lien attempt, dated weeks earlier, under my name. My brother had forged signatures. He'd been planning to pin this mansion as collateral before I even knew it was mine. The audacity almost made me laugh. Almost. Instead, I called my lawyer. Freeze everything. File a fraud alert. Notify the sheriff. And get me every single document with my name on it. By noon the next day, I had a folder thicker than a phone book. Fake loan agreements. Bogus contracts. My signature scrawled across pages I'd never seen. My parents knew. They had to. That night, I drove to their house. My brother's BMW sat crooked in the driveway, music blasting from inside. I rang the bell. Mom answered, eyes narrowed. "You look tired," she said. "Keeping up with your new life already?" I held up the folder and smiled. More like cleaning up his mess. Her smirk faltered. Dad appeared behind her, tense. "Whatever this is, you'll drop it. For the family." I leaned closer, lowering my voice until it cut sharp. "The sheriff will be here tomorrow morning. I suggest you prepare yourselves." For once, they had no comeback. But just as I turned to leave, my brother stumbled into the hall, clutching his phone. He grinned, slurring his words. "You think you've won? Wait until the bank auction. Let's see how you feel when strangers are living in your mansion." The next morning, my phone buzzed at 8:17 a.m. "Sheriff's office. We're outside your parents' residence." You might want to come down. By the time I arrived, the scene was pure chaos. A patrol car in the driveway. My brother pacing with his hair a mess, yelling into his phone. My mom clutching her robe like a shield, whispering furiously to Dad. And Dad, arms crossed, glaring at me as though I had betrayed them. The deputy held up the folder of forged documents. Signatures don't match. This is a felony. My brother snapped. She planted those. She's obsessed with ruining me. I didn't bother arguing. I simply handed over a USB drive with the time-stamped copies I'd pulled from the county's digital portal. Every document, every date, every forged mark, backed up and undeniable. The deputy nodded. We'll escalate this. Ma'am, you're clear. Sir, you'll need to come with us for questioning. The moment the cuffs clicked onto my brother's wrists, Mom let out a wail that rattled the porch. You can't do this. He's our son. Her words cut deep, but not in the way she intended. They didn't say my son. They said our son. I was standing right there, and yet I was invisible again. As the patrol car rolled away, Dad turned to me with venom in his eyes. You've destroyed this family. For a house. I met his gaze steadily.
No, Dad.
I just refuse to let your favorite destroy me. For a long moment, silence swallowed us both. That night, as I sat by the fireplace in my mansion, a thought lingered. The deed was safe, my brother was facing charges, and yet, I knew they weren't done. My family had never taken defeat quietly. And right on cue, at 11:42 p.m., my phone lit up with an unknown number. A voicemail dropped seconds later. You think the law protects you? You don't know who you're really up against. I played it twice, the voice distorted, threatening, unfamiliar. My victory was only just beginning to unfold. The voicemail replayed in my head all night. The voice wasn't my father's, wasn't my brother's. It was someone else entirely. Someone they'd pulled into this twisted mess. By sunrise, I had a plan. I called my attorney and forwarded the message. Run a trace. I want to know exactly who's behind this. Hours later, the answer chilled me. The call had come from a burner phone purchased with my parents' joint account. So they weren't just enabling my brother. They were actively weaponizing outsiders against me. That evening, I drove back to the house I grew up in. The front yard was littered with cars, friends, neighbors, maybe even church members. It looked like a gathering staged for sympathy. Inside, my parents sat with smug expressions while my brother, out on bail, sulked in the corner. Mom started first. You think money and paperwork make you better than us? We've spoken to people who can fix this. You won't win. I let the silence stretch, then slid a manila envelope onto the coffee table. Inside, printed bank records showing the burner purchase, cash withdrawals tied to Dad's signature, and emails they thought I'd never see. Mom's smile faltered. Dad's face turned red. My brother muttered something under his breath, but I raised a hand.
No.
You don't get to speak. I leaned forward, voice calm but sharp as glass. You forged documents. You laundered through my accounts. You bought threats with your own money. Every move you've made ties back to you. And tomorrow morning, your friends will read about it on the front page. Not my doing, just the truth coming to light. The room cracked with silence. Even their closest allies shifted uncomfortably, realizing they were sitting beside criminals, not victims. My father tried to bluster. You wouldn't dare. But I cut him off. It's already in motion. Reporters have copies. Bank officials, too. And the sheriff? He'll be here again soon. Except this time, it won't be just my brother answering questions. My mother's hand trembled, clutching her wine glass until it nearly shattered. My brother cursed and stormed out. My father sank back, eyes burning but powerless. As I turned to leave, I said one last thing. You thought I was the weak one in this family. You thought I'd fold. But this house, this life, it's mine. And you'll never take it again. The front door closed behind me, but the weight of war still pressed on my chest. And then, at 2:03 a.m., an email arrived in my inbox. Subject line: Final offer. The sender: my mother. The subject line glowed on my screen. Final offer. For a moment, my hands hovered above the keyboard, my heart pounding. I clicked. Inside was a single line from my mother. Let's talk privately. We can make this right. No apologies. No remorse. Just negotiation like my dignity had a price tag. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the email to my lawyer, CCNG the bank investigator, and the local reporter already circling the story. Then I closed my laptop and let silence be my answer. By noon, the fallout began. Headlines screamed about financial fraud, forged deeds, and family betrayal. Neighbors whispered. Friends vanished. My brother lost his job, his car repossessed, and every ounce of his golden boy shine. My parents' accounts froze, their circle of influence collapsing overnight. And me? I stood on the balcony of the mansion, the one they said wasn't mine, watching the ocean waves crash against the cliffs. For the first time, I felt something I hadn't in years.
Peace.
When Dad called, begging, I let it ring. When Mom left voicemails, sobbing about families sticking together, I deleted them all. When my brother showed up at the gates, demanding I fix it, the guards escorted him off the property without a word from me. I had spent years begging for scraps of love, for recognition, for fairness. But I wasn't begging anymore. I wasn't their embarrassment, their scapegoat, or their backup plan. I was free, and as the Christmas lights twinkled faintly on the eaves of my home, I whispered the only gift they had ever truly given me, the strength to cut them out, once and for all. The photos hit my phone like tiny knives. Kids everywhere. Laughter, balloons, three-tier cakes, pony rides, a magician with a dorky hat, and a banner that read, Family First. Except my son wasn't there. Not by accident. Not by oversight.
By choice.
My name is Kendra, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because let me ask you, have you ever watched your child be erased from a celebration that was supposed to be for everyone? They planned it for months, Mom and my sister, Tiffany. A massive backyard blowout for all the cousins, nieces, nephews. Over 100 guests. A unicorn bounce house. Hand-painted invites. The whole thing coordinated like a royal event. But when I asked why my 7-year-old, Micah, didn't receive one, my mom said, we just didn't think he'd fit in. You know how he gets. He has anxiety. He gets overstimulated sometimes. So they excluded him from his own family. I stared at the screen, at photos of Tiffany's twins holding matching gift bags and riding ponies while my son sat on our living room rug, confused why he wasn't getting dressed like the others. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I took him out for ice cream instead, just us two, and told him it was a quiet day just for him. But I knew what I had to do. This wasn't the first time they treated my child like a problem. But it would be the last time they did it without consequence. So while Tiffany posted videos with captions like, cousins make the best memories, I started documenting every snub, every school committee where my name was mysteriously left off, every passive-aggressive text about how Micah was too sensitive. They painted me as dramatic for years. But I'd learned something powerful. You don't have to shout when the truth is loud enough on its own. So no, I didn't crash the party. I didn't go live. I didn't confront anyone. I got to work, quietly, carefully, and built something that made their little backyard parade look like a garage sale. And by the time I was done, Tiffany wasn't posting party pictures anymore. She was changing her phone number and her zip code. That night, after I tucked Micah in, I sat at the kitchen table and opened a fresh document on my laptop. Title: The Pattern. Every incident, every slight, every backhanded comment, denial, and dismissal, lined up in bullet points, with dates and screenshots. Because this wasn't just a party. This was the culmination of years of quiet cruelty masked as family traditions. Like the Christmas my mom forgot Micah's name on the cousins' gift list. Or the Thanksgiving where he was told the kids' table was full and had to eat alone in the hallway. They always had an excuse. They always said it with a smile. They always acted like I was the one overreacting. But now, I had proof. A pattern. A story waiting to be told. I didn't want pity. I wanted accountability, the kind that hurts in places where apologies can't reach. So I started where they never expected. The school district. Tiffany had just joined the PDA, loud, boastful, eager to climb social ladders. She bragged about being a founding member of the district's inclusive family committee. And I had receipts, emails, chats, and audio of her dismissing my son as difficult and disruptive at past events. She was their poster mom. I sent a carefully written letter to the committee head, attached the clips, forwarded the text where she joked Micah was a vibe killer. I didn't even add commentary. The content spoke for itself. But that was just phase 1. Phase 2? Local parenting forums, neighborhood Facebook groups, event planner circles, all places Tiffany relied on to maintain her curated image of supermom. I posted nothing defamatory. I simply asked questions. What would you do if your child was the only one excluded from a family party and the host ran a public kids events company? The responses? Furious. Viral. A storm of empathy and outrage. By morning, 2 clients had backed out of her weekend bookings. By the end of the week, her business page had a new review, one that quoted her own words about my son. I didn't write it, but I didn't stop it either. Mom called me that Friday. You've made your point. You're tearing the family apart. I answered quietly, no. I'm holding up a mirror. If it's cracking, maybe you should look at what you built. She hung up. But that mirror? It was just starting to reflect. And soon, everyone would see exactly what kind of family they'd been applauding. By the following Tuesday, Tiffany's Inclusion Matters brand was in free fall. She tried to post a teary-eyed selfie on her Instagram story, saying she was the victim of misunderstandings and online bullying. That people were twisting words out of context. But I didn't have to say a word. The context was already public. That clip of her mocking Micah's sensitivity, he'd probably cry if the balloon popped too loud, had made its way to a popular mom blogger's page. With over 120K followers. They posted it with the caption, "This is what exclusion sounds like." And it's coming from someone who runs children's parties. Comments flooded in. She's the problem. No kid deserves that. I booked her once. Now I feel sick. How do you exclude a child from his own family? By the end of the day, her event partner pulled out of a joint venue contract. Her business Venmo was frozen due to a wave of refund demands. A concerned client forwarded me a message Tiffany sent trying to deny everything and blaming me. She said I had manipulated public perception. But I hadn't manipulated a thing. All I did was open the door. The truth walked out on its own. Micah still didn't know. I shielded him from all of it, just like I always had. I took him to the museum, to the aquarium, built Lego cities on our living room floor. He smiled again. Slept better. He thought the world was kind again. And for once, I was letting it be. But behind the scenes, my mom was in panic mode. She messaged me late that night. "You've humiliated your sister. She's afraid to go to church. Can't you just fix this?" I stared at the message for a long time. And then I typed, "You all left Micah out on purpose. You shamed a 7-year-old in silence. You don't get to ask for mercy now that the silence is broken." I didn't send it. I deleted it. Instead, I just responded. "Tell her I said hi. And that every balloon eventually pops." The next morning, I heard from a real estate agent. She didn't say it outright, but I could read between the lines. "I have a client looking to relocate quickly. She needs a fresh start. Some distance." Tiffany was moving. Micah would never know the full reason why. But me? I'd never forget what it felt like, to be the one they underestimated. And then to watch them run from the party they once hosted. The moving truck arrived on a rainy Monday. No fanfare. No goodbyes. Just a gray van with smudged lettering and men who didn't ask questions. I watched from across the street, arms folded, heart calm. Tiffany had plastered herself across every social platform as the fun aunt, the community mom, the curator of magical childhoods. But now, the banner was gone. The backyard was quiet. And the neighbors? They were whispering. I didn't celebrate her downfall. I observed it, like a scientist watches a storm pass over land that refused to listen to the forecast. 3 weeks earlier, I was the dramatic sister. Now, I was the one parents asked for event recommendations. The one teachers emailed when planning inclusive activities. The one people actually saw. But none of that compared to what happened one afternoon as I picked Micah up from school. He ran toward me, messy curls bouncing, eyes bright.
Mom.
Ms. Harrison said I get to help set up the art fair booth. Me and Ava. Ava, Tiffany's daughter. I froze for a second, then smiled. Really? That's great, baby. He nodded furiously. She said I'm good with colors. Ava said sorry for something, but I didn't get it. We just drew dragons. And that was the moment I realized. This wasn't about revenge. It was about repair. Not with them. They'd made their choice. But for him. For every time I swallowed pain to protect his joy. For every forced smile at family dinners where he was ignored. For every party he didn't get invited to, and every birthday gift they forgot to bring. I used to think I needed an invite to be part of the family.
But now?
Now I understood. Some doors are meant to be closed, especially the ones that slam on your child's heart. So I stopped knocking. I built our own space, bright, soft, and loud with laughter. And people came. People who saw Micah.
People who saw me.
At the next neighborhood gathering, someone asked if I wanted to help plan the spring block party. We need someone who really knows how to make sure everyone feels welcome. I smiled. Because I wasn't just included now. I was essential. And the only thing sweeter than being invited was knowing you never needed their invitation in the first place. Spring came fast. And with it, the block party. Banners strung across the fences. A live jazz trio. Food trucks. Painting booths. Popcorn machines. Micah helped hang paper lanterns and handed out juice boxes like a tiny mayor. He wore his favorite red hoodie and a grin that never faded. This time, he wasn't an afterthought. He was part of everything. People came up to me all day, new moms, old neighbors, even teachers from Micah's school, just to say, "We're so glad you're here." And then, as if on cue, Tiffany showed up. She hadn't moved too far away, just across town, and apparently, she wanted to swing by and make things right. She walked in slowly, with her signature overcompensating smile, carrying a tray of gluten-free cupcakes and a camera-ready apology. "Kendra, can we talk?" I didn't answer right away. She glanced at Micah, who was busy helping another little boy untangle a kite string. He looked so happy. That's all I ever wanted. That was a lie, but I let it sit in the air. She shifted. The internet stuff, the business fallout. That got out of hand. I raised an eyebrow. Not "I'm sorry." Not "I see now what I did was wrong." Just regret that her world cracked when mine started shining. Mom said you're still angry. I met her eyes and spoke slowly. "No, Tiffany. I'm done. There's a difference." She blinked, unsure how to respond. "Look," she tried again. "I didn't mean to hurt Micah. He's a good kid." I leaned in. "You didn't have to mean it. You just had to keep doing it, quietly, consistently, and without ever thinking twice." She started to speak, but I stopped her. "We're not enemies. We're just not family. Not in the way that words should mean." She looked down, hands trembling just slightly. For the first time, I saw the crack behind her smile. "So what now?" she asked. I looked out at the kids laughing in the distance, one of them mine, finally belonging.
"Now?"
"You live your life. And I live mine. But the next time you throw a party, maybe think twice before deciding who's worthy of being loved out loud." She didn't answer. Just turned, slowly walked away, and left the cupcakes behind, untouched. Micah came running back over, holding a balloon animal and a drawing he made of us. "Best day ever, Mom." And it was. Because this time he was the center, not the secret. And I didn't have to fight for space. We built our own. A week after the block party, I got a letter in the mail. Not a text. Not a DM. An actual envelope with floral print edges and cursive handwriting I knew too well. My mother's. Inside was a family photo, a professionally taken one from the infamous pony ride party. All the kids lined up in color-coded outfits. Parents laughing. The whole perfect clan beaming for the camera. Except for one thing. In the bottom corner, where Micah had stood in every group photo before, there was air. Blank space. It was so obviously cropped, it was insulting. She'd mailed it with a post-it stuck on the back. Hope you'll come around eventually. We miss you. I held the picture in my hands, my chest tight, not with grief, but with clarity. This wasn't forgetfulness. It wasn't passive exclusion. It was surgical. They wanted the image, not the truth. The performance of family, not the responsibility of it. Micah walked into the room right then. Whatcha looking at? I turned the photo over. Just an old picture that doesn't matter anymore. He nodded and went back to his coloring. But I stood there longer thinking about how much time I'd spent trying to earn a seat at their table, about the energy I wasted decoding fake smiles and decoding half-sincere invitations, all while raising a child who was pure-hearted, brilliant, and brave. I didn't need their picture.
I had my own now. From the block party.
From the aquarium. From the Tuesday night taco dinners where Micah wore a cape and told me I was the coolest mom alive. I had a new album, a life I built outside their narrative. So I took the photo they sent and slid it into a drawer labeled past. And then I opened my phone, found the picture of Micah and Ava from Art Day, 2 kids side by side, holding dragon drawings, and printed it on glossy paper. That one, I framed, because that wasn't curated. It wasn't polished. It was real. The kind of memory you don't have to crop to feel proud of. And for the first time in years, I felt free of their selective love. They could keep their ponies, their bounce castles, and their empty platitudes. I had something better. A child who knew what being loved fully felt like. It started with a local parent blog. Someone reached out to me privately after the block party. A woman named Janice, who ran a well-known column called The Real Table. She said, I heard what happened, not the gossip, the truth. Would you ever share your story? Not to bash anyone, just to help others who feel invisible. I hesitated. For days. Not because I was afraid. Because I was tired. Of always being the one to explain. The one to justify. But then I thought of the moms I'd seen quietly crying at PTA meetings when their kid wasn't called on. The ones who felt too other in rooms full of fake perfection. And, of course, I thought of Micah. So I said yes. We met at a coffee shop. I spoke honestly, no names, just the story, what it felt like to be excluded, not as a punishment to me but to my child. What it felt like to watch relatives play pretend with everyone but us. What it felt like to be erased. The article went live 2 weeks later. Title? The Child They Didn't Invite, and the Mother Who Didn't Stay Silent. Within days, it spread. Not virally, not sensationalized, but steadily, like truth walking through locked doors. Emails came in from parents across the country. Stories of exclusion, of being overlooked by their own blood, of having different kids. Sensitive kids. Brilliant kids who didn't fit the mold. One mom wrote, I read this in tears. It felt like someone finally said the thing I've been afraid to say out loud. Another simply wrote, Thank you. You made me feel seen. I printed those messages, folded them neatly into a folder I now keep on my desk, labeled proof. Proof that speaking up matters. Proof that exclusion, no matter how quiet, always echoes somewhere louder. Tiffany never responded publicly. But I knew she saw it. The only thing she ever posted again from her events account was a generic quote about growth through challenges. Her bookings never fully recovered. Mom texted me a single sentence weeks later. You didn't have to go that far. I replied.
You did.
I just followed the map you drew. And that was it. No more photos. No more invites. No more pretending. Because this wasn't about being let back into their party. It was about making sure the next kid, the next mom, didn't have to wonder if they were crazy for feeling excluded. We were crazy. We were just finally done being quiet. Summer came, and with it, Micah's birthday. This time, we threw the party. No castles. No curated guest list based on family appearances. Just joy. A public park, superhero capes, a community bounce house. Kids from his class, kids from the block, and a few from his art group, all running wild and laughing without choreography. Micah turned 8. And for the first time, he didn't ask why certain people weren't there. He didn't ask why his grandma didn't call. He didn't ask if his cousins were coming. He didn't even notice. Because he was surrounded by people who chose to love him, not people who were guilted into it. Later that night, as I cleaned up the streamers and packed leftover cupcakes, a small voice said from behind me, "Mom." I turned. "Yeah, baby?" He looked up, red frosting smeared on his cheek. This was the best birthday. Not 'cause of the cake, but 'cause I didn't feel weird today. I felt like I was supposed to be here. I froze. That sentence. That exact sentence. Like I was supposed to be here. I knelt down and hugged him tightly. Not because he needed it, but because I did. All the years I'd questioned myself, tried to fit into rooms that rejected me quietly, smiled through dinners where my child was forgotten. And here he was 8 years old, standing in his truth. Confident.
Whole. Seen.
Not because they changed, but because I stopped waiting for them to. And in doing so, I taught him the lesson they never could. That you don't need their banner to feel like you belong. That family isn't blood that excludes you, it's love that surrounds you. That the quietest revenge is a full, beautiful life. No fights. No scenes. No screaming matches in their living rooms. Just a child who laughed all day. And a mother who finally understood that the biggest celebration is being uninvited and not wanting to go. Weeks later, Tiffany moved again. Word got around that she left to start fresh, but we knew better. And Mom? Well, I heard she cried when the family newsletter didn't include her daughter's name this year. I guess that's what happens when you crop people out. Eventually you get cropped out too.
And me?
I smiled, closed the door, picked up the birthday card Micah made for me. It said in crayon, "To Mom, you're the best party ever." And for the first time, I didn't feel like a guest in my own life. I felt like the host.